My name is Ivy Phillips. I'm 28. Last Tuesday at 7:47 p.m., I was sitting at table 12 in Rossini's restaurant, watching my father toast my half-sister's engagement, while I wore scrubs that still smelled like antiseptic because I'd come straight from a double shift. He raised his champagne glass, the expensive kind, $18 per flute, and said loud enough for all 32 people to hear, "To Isla, the daughter who actually made something of herself." Then he looked directly at me and added, "I wish you were never born." The waiter had just set down my water. His hand froze mid-pour. My stepmother Claire touched my father's arm, but she was smiling. That particular smile she'd perfected over 14 years, the one that said she agreed with every word but wanted to appear sympathetic. Isla didn't even glance my way. She was too busy showing off her ring, a 2.5-carat diamond I'd later learn cost $8,400. I know because I'd been paying my father's credit card bills for the past 3 years. "Dad," I said quietly, "can we talk outside?" "Don't make a scene, Ivy." His voice was ice. "You're always making everything about you." I wasn't making a scene. I was sitting perfectly still, my hands folded in my lap, trying not to cry in front of my coworkers from the hospital who were dining 3 tables over. But Claire leaned forward and said in that wounded voice she used so well, "We invited you to celebrate as a family, sweetheart. If you didn't want to come, you could have just said so." I did want to come. It was my birthday too. I'd turned 28 exactly 4 hours ago, at 3:47 p.m. While I was checking vitals on a patient in room 304, nobody had mentioned it. Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time is it there. Let me take you back 11 years to when I was 17. My grandmother, Elena, lived in the house on 412 Burwood Lane, a white colonial with black shutters and a garden that smelled like lavender every June. I used to sit on her porch swing after school, and she'd bring me lemonade in the glass pitcher with the chipped rim. "This house has good bones, little Bloom," she'd say, using the nickname she'd given me when I was 6. "Strong bones, just like you." She died when I was 19, 2 months before I started nursing school. At the funeral, my father cried louder than anyone. He gave this whole speech about how she was the backbone of our family, how she taught him everything about responsibility and honor. I believed him. I had no reason not to. 3 weeks after we buried her, my father sat me down in that same living room and explained that Grandma had left the house to him. He said she'd wanted him to take care of it, keep it in the family. "You understand, don't you, Ivy? You're young, you'll have your own place someday. But Claire and Isla need stability now." I understood, or I thought I did. What I didn't understand was why I had to start paying the mortgage 6 months later. It started small. My father called me on a Tuesday morning while I was studying for my pharmacology exam. "Ivy, I need a favor. The mortgage payment is $2,400 this month, and Claire's car broke down. We had to use the house payment for repairs. Can you cover it just this once? I'll pay you back next month." I had $3,100 in my checking account from working night shifts at the diner while going to nursing school. I sent him $2,400 through the bank app at 11:23 a.m. He never paid me back. The next month, it was the water heater. $1,850. The month after that, the property taxes. $3,200. Then it was Isla's college application fees, the new roof, Claire's medical bills, the furnace repair, the deck renovation. Every time my father would call with that same exhausted voice. "I wouldn't ask if I wasn't desperate, Ivy. You know that." I graduated nursing school with $47,000 in student debt because I'd paid my own way while funding their lives. I worked double shifts, picked up every holiday, took the night rotations nobody wanted. My scrubs had bleach stains from the hospital laundry. My car was a 2004 Honda with 198,000 miles. I ate ramen 4 nights a week. Meanwhile, Isla went to state college, tuition paid in full. Claire redecorated the living room 3 times. My father bought a boat. When I asked about paying me back, he'd sigh like I was being unreasonable. Family doesn't keep score, Ivy. Your grandmother would be disappointed in you. That line worked for 8 years. Then 4 months ago, my father called at 6:14 a.m. on a Saturday. I'd just finished a night shift and was walking to my car in the hospital parking garage, so tired my knees were shaking. Ivy, we need to talk about Belle's wedding. Belle was Isla's college roommate. I'd met her twice. What about it? Isla's agreed to be maid of honor. It's a huge deal. Belle's family is very well connected, but the dress, the bachelorette party in Miami, the shoes, the gift, it's adding up. Isla calculated it'll be about $4,200 total. I stopped walking. Okay? We need you to cover it. Dad, I don't have… Ivy. His voice hardened. Isla has been there for you your entire life. She babysat you when you were little. I babysat her. She's younger than me. Don't interrupt. This is important for her future. Belle's father owns a marketing firm. This is networking. This is her career. You work at a hospital. You have stable income. Isla's still finding her path. Isla was 25 and had quit 3 jobs in 2 years because she didn't vibe with the energy. I can't afford $4,200 right now, I said. I'm saving for… For what? You don't have kids. You're not married. What could you possibly need money for more than your sister needs this opportunity? I was saving for a down payment on my own place. I'd gotten up to $52,000 after 10 years of sacrifice. It was supposed to be my escape fund. Please, Dad. I'm really stretched thin. You're being selfish. His voice was flat, final. I raised you better than this. I sent $4,200 the next day, then another $2,100 for her hair and makeup trial, then $3,800 for the Miami trip I wasn't invited on, then $1,950 for the bridal shower gift, a set of crystal wine glasses that cost more than my monthly rent. My savings account hit $39,950. I'd lost $12,050 in 3 months. The birthday dinner was supposed to be a celebration. Let's all get together, Claire had said on the phone. It's been too long since we had family time. I should have known better. I arrived at Rossini's at 7:30 p.m., 17 minutes early, still wearing my scrubs because I didn't have time to change. The hostess led me to a private room in the back where my father, Claire, and Isla were already seated with 29 other people I barely recognized. Claire's relatives, Isla's friends, some neighbors from Burwood Lane. There was a banner that said, "Congratulations, Isla and Brandon." No mention of my birthday. I sat down in the only empty chair, wedged between Claire's sister and a woman I'd never met. My father didn't look up from his menu. Isla was showing everyone her ring. "Ivy!" Claire exclaimed, as if she'd just noticed me. "You're here! We weren't sure you'd make it. You're always so busy with work." "You invited me," I said. "Well, yes, but you know how you are, always canceling at the last minute." I had never canceled, not once in 14 years. Dinner started. Nobody ordered for me. I asked the waiter for the cheapest thing on the menu, a $16 pasta dish. Everyone else got the $45 steak or the $38 salmon. My father ordered a $120 bottle of wine. I drank water. Halfway through the meal, my father stood up and tapped his glass with a fork. The room went quiet. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight," he said. His voice was warm, proud. "Isla, you've grown into such an incredible woman. Smart, beautiful, ambitious. Everything your mother and I could have hoped for." He looked at Claire, who dabbed her eyes with a napkin. "We're so proud of you, sweetheart." Everyone applauded. Isla beamed. Then my father's eyes landed on me. The warmth vanished. "And Ivy's here too." He said it like an afterthought, like I was an uninvited guest. "Working hard as always. At least someone in this family knows what responsibility looks like." A few people laughed uncomfortably. I felt my face burn. Actually, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Today's my birthday too. The room fell silent. My father's jaw tightened. Is it? Claire said, her eyebrows raised in performative surprise. Oh my goodness, I completely forgot. Well, happy birthday, Ivy. She didn't sing. Nobody sang. My father set down his glass. Ivy, this dinner is for Isla's engagement. Can you not make it about yourself for once? I'm not trying to. You always do this. His voice rose, cutting through the room. Every family event, you find a way to pull focus. Isla's graduation, you complained about paying for her party. Claire's surgery, you asked how much the hospital bill would be. And now, on your sister's engagement celebration, you want everyone to stop and acknowledge you. I stared at him. None of that was true. I hadn't complained about Isla's graduation party. I'd asked why it cost $6,700 for 50 people. I hadn't questioned Claire's surgery. I'd asked if insurance covered it because my father called asking me for $8,200. And I hadn't demanded anything tonight. I'd simply stated a fact. Dad, that's not what happened. Don't argue with me. He slammed his hand on the table. Silverware jumped. Everyone stared. I have given you everything. A roof over your head growing up, food, education. I paid for my own education. And this is how you repay me? With disrespect? With ingratitude? He leaned forward, his eyes cold and flat. Sometimes I look at you, Ivy, and I think about how different my life would have been if you'd never been born. How much easier, how much happier. The woman next to me inhaled sharply. The waiter who'd been approaching with dessert menus turned and walked away. Mason, Claire said softly, putting her hand on his arm. But she was still smiling. I stood up. My legs felt numb. I need to go. Of course you do, my father said. Run away. That's what you do best. I walked out of Rossini's at 8:34 p.m. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 11 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe. My phone buzzed. A text from Isla. That was really awkward. Why do you always have to make things weird? I drove home to my apartment, a 600 square foot studio I rented for $1,100 a month, and sat on my bed in the dark. I didn't cry. I was too tired to cry. I should have been angry. I should have been devastated. But mostly, I just felt empty. Like I'd finally heard what my father had been thinking all along, and the truth was almost a relief. The next morning, I worked another double shift. My hands were steady while I inserted IVs and checked vitals and reassured a patient's daughter that her mother was stable. At 3:22 p.m., while I was charting medications in the nurse's station, my supervisor, Dr. Ramona Hayes, sat down next to me. Ivy, you okay? You look exhausted. I'm fine. You've worked 14 shifts in the last 12 days. That's not sustainable. I need the money. Dr. Hayes studied me for a long moment. She was 54, had been a nurse for 30 years before becoming a supervisor, and had a way of seeing through everyone's polite lies. What's going on? I meant to say, nothing. Instead, I told her everything. About the mortgage payments, and the wedding fund, and the birthday dinner, and my father's face when he said he wished I'd never been born. The words spilled out in that fluorescent-lit nurse's station while my hands shook and my voice stayed flat and professional, like I was giving a patient report. When I finished, Dr. Hayes was quiet. Then she said, Ivy, whose name is on the deed for that house? I blinked. My dad's. He inherited it from my grandmother. Have you ever seen the deed? No. Why would I? Because you've paid over $200,000 toward that house in 8 years. If your name's not on it, you have no legal claim to any of it. And if your father's been accepting money from you under the premise that you're helping with family expenses while he's the sole owner, that's not family support. That's just you paying his bills. Something cold settled in my stomach. He wouldn't. I'm not saying he did. I'm saying you should check. I went home that night and pulled out every bank statement from the past 8 years. I added up every transfer, every check, every Venmo payment. The total was $247,350 for a house I didn't own, for credit cards I didn't use, for a family that didn't want me at the dinner table unless I was paying for it. I called the county assessor's office the next morning. A woman with a kind voice named Patricia answered. I need to know who owns the property at 412 Burwood Lane. I heard typing. Then Patricia said, that property is owned by Elena Marie Phillips, according to our records. There's a note here that says the deed was transferred on June 3rd, 2014, but, oh wait. There's an updated filing from 2016. Hold on. My grandmother died in 2014. I was 19. More typing. Then Patricia's voice changed. Actually, the current owner is listed as Ivy Catherine Phillips. Is that you? The room tilted. What? The deed was transferred to you on September 12, 2016. There's a note that it was held in trust until your 21st birthday, then transferred to your name directly. You've been the legal owner for 7 years. I sat down on my kitchen floor. The linoleum was cold against my legs. That's not possible. My father lives there. I'm just reading what's in the county records, ma'am. If there's a dispute, you might want to contact a property attorney. But according to this, you're the owner. I hung up at 9:47 a.m. I sat on that floor for 23 minutes. Then I called my father. He answered on the third ring. Ivy, I don't have time for… When did Grandma transfer the house to me? Silence. Long enough that I thought he'd hung up. What are you talking about? His voice was careful now. I called the county assessor. The house is in my name. It's been in my name since I was 21. You've been living in my house for 7 years. More silence. Then, who told you to go digging into this? Why didn't you tell me the house was mine? Because you were too young to handle that kind of responsibility, he snapped. Your grandmother made a mistake putting it in your name. She was old, confused. I've been managing the property, protecting your investment. You should be thanking me. I've been paying you $2,400 a month for a mortgage on a house I own. You've been contributing to household expenses, taxes, insurance, maintenance. Those don't pay themselves. The property taxes are $6,400 a year. I've paid you over $28,000 a year for 8 years. Don't you dare question me. His voice turned vicious. I raised you. I fed you. I kept a roof over your head when your mother walked out. On a house that was legally mine. He hung up. I called him back 6 times. He didn't answer. I texted him. We need to talk about this. He responded 2 hours later. You're being incredibly selfish and hurtful. Claire is very upset. Don't contact us again until you're ready to apologize. I stood in my tiny apartment, surrounded by furniture from thrift stores and walls I couldn't paint because I didn't own the place, and realized I'd been paying rent on my own house while living in someone else's. That night, I started going through my grandmother's things. The boxes I'd kept in storage since she died, the ones I'd been too sad to open. Most of it was photographs and old recipes and knitting patterns, but at the bottom of the third box, wrapped in a silk scarf that smelled faintly of her lavender perfume, was a sealed envelope. My name was written on the front in her handwriting. Inside was a letter. Dear little Bloom, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and your father is already doing exactly what I knew he would do. He's probably told you the house belongs to him. He's probably convinced you that I forgot about you, or that I chose Claire and Isla over you. He's wrong. I've known what kind of man Mason is since he was 16 years old. Charming when he wants something, cruel when he doesn't get his way. I watched him manipulate your mother until she had no choice but to leave. I watched him bring Claire into that house 6 months later and erase your mother from every photograph. I watched him treat you like hired help while treating Isla like a princess. I couldn't stop it while you were growing up, but I could prepare for this moment. On September 12, 2016, your 21st birthday, the house at 412 Burwood Lane became yours. Not in trust, Not partially. Completely. I transferred the deed to you through my attorney, Marcus Chen, at Chen and Associates on Westbrook Avenue. His office has the original documents. I've also left you something else. In my safe deposit box at First National Bank, box number 1847, there's $85,000. It's yours. The key is taped to the back of this letter. The bank manager, Susan Hartley, has instructions to give you access. No one else knows about this money. Your father will lie. He'll say I was confused, that the paperwork was wrong, that you're being ungrateful. Don't believe him. I was sharper at 83 than he'll ever be at 50. You are not selfish. You are not ungrateful. You are the only honest person in that family, and that's why they treat you the way they do. Honest people make liars uncomfortable. The house is yours. The money is yours. Your life is yours. Don't let him take anything else. All my love, Grandma Elena. Your little bloom will grow strong roots. I read the letter 4 times. My hands were shaking so hard the paper rustled. There was a small key taped to the back, just like she said. I called Chen and Associates at 8:02 a.m. the next morning. A receptionist answered, and I asked to speak with Marcus Chen about the Elena Phillips estate. May I ask your name? Ivy Phillips. I'm her granddaughter. There was a pause. Then the receptionist said, Mr. Chen has been waiting for your call for 7 years. Please hold. Marcus Chen was 62, with gray hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. His office smelled like old books and coffee. He shook my hand and said, Your grandmother told me you'd figure it out eventually. She hoped it would be sooner, but she understood your father's talent for manipulation. He told me he inherited the house. He tried to contest the will 3 times. Your grandmother anticipated that. She had the deed transferred through an irrevocable trust that activated on your 21st birthday. There was nothing to contest by the time he found out. Why didn't anyone tell me? Your grandmother's instructions were clear. Wait until you asked. She said if she told you outright, your father would gaslight you into believing you'd misunderstood or misremembered. But if you discovered it yourself, you'd trust the truth. Mr. Chen opened a file folder. Inside were copies of the original deed, the trust documents, the transfer papers, and a notarized letter from my grandmother explaining her reasoning. Everything was dated, signed, witnessed. There's more, he said. Your grandmother kept meticulous records of every conversation she had with your father about the house. She knew he'd try to claim he'd been paying the mortgage, so she documented that the house was paid off in 1998. There is no mortgage. There never was. The room spun. I've been paying him $2,400 a month for 8 years. For a non-existent mortgage on a house you legally own. That's $230,400. Plus whatever else he's asked you for. Your grandmother suspected he'd use guilt and obligation to drain your finances. She wanted you to have evidence. I went to First National Bank that afternoon. Susan Hartley, the manager, was expecting me. She walked me to the safe deposit room, used my key and the bank's key to open box 1847, and left me alone. Inside was $85,000 in cashier's checks made out to me, dated 1 month before my grandmother died. There was also a stack of letters, one for every birthday from age 21 to 30. I was supposed to get one each year. I'd missed 7. I opened the one marked age 28. Little Bloom, you're 28 now. I hope you're a nurse like you always dreamed. I hope you're taking care of people the way you took care of me. I hope you've walked away from your father and built your own life. If you haven't, that's okay too. Sometimes we need to break slowly, but know this. You don't owe him anything, not money, not time, not forgiveness. You never did. Happy birthday, my sweet girl. Grandma Elena. I sat in that bank vault and cried for the first time in months. 2 weeks later, I was at the hospital finishing my shift when my phone rang. Unknown number. Ms. Phillips, this is Gordon Reeves from the Community Care Center. Your father listed you as an emergency contact. We're hosting a family meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. regarding some concerns about the property at 412 Burwood Lane. Your father requested you attend. What kind of concerns? I'm not at liberty to discuss details over the phone, but it's important that all stakeholders be present. I almost laughed. Stakeholders. I was the only stakeholder. I owned the house. I showed up at the community care center at 1:55 p.m. the next day. It was a gray building with fluorescent lights and motivational posters about family unity. A woman at the front desk directed me to conference room B. Inside, my father sat at the head of a long table. Claire was to his right, Isla to his left. Across from them sat a man in a cheap suit who introduced himself as David Marsh, a mediator. "Thank you for coming, Ivy," Mr. Marsh said. "Please, sit." I sat at the opposite end of the table from my father. He wouldn't look at me. "We're here today," Mr. Marsh continued, "to discuss the living situation at 412 Burwood Lane and reach an agreement that's fair to all parties involved." "There's nothing to discuss," I said. "I own the house." My father's head snapped up. "You own it on paper. I've maintained it. I've lived there for 30 years. Your grandmother wanted me to have it. She transferred it to me 7 years ago." "She was manipulated," Claire said, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Your grandmother was elderly, Ivy. People took advantage of her." "People like who?" "Like you." Isla leaned forward. "You were always her favorite. You probably convinced her to sign things she didn't understand." I pulled a folder from my bag and slid it across the table. Inside were copies of the deed, the trust documents, and the letters from my grandmother. "Read those." Mr. Marsh opened the folder. His eyes widened as he scanned the pages. My father grabbed the papers. His face turned red as he read. "This is fake. You forged these. The county assessor has the originals. So does Marcus Chen at Chen and Associates. You're welcome to verify." "You conniving little—" My father stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "I raised you. I gave you everything. And this is how you repay me? By trying to steal my house?" "It's not your house. It's mine. It's been mine since I was 21. "You don't deserve it," he hissed. "You've done nothing with your life. You're a nurse. You'll never amount to anything. Isla has potential. Isla has a future. You're just the owner of the house you've been living in rent-free for 7 years while charging me $2,400 a month for a fake mortgage?" The room went silent. Mr. Marsh cleared his throat. "Mr. Phillips, did you accept money from your daughter under the representation that there was a mortgage on this property?" "I accepted contributions for household expenses." "Did you tell her she was paying a mortgage?" "I may have said yes or no." My father's jaw clenched. "She offered to help. I didn't force her." I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. "I have records of every transfer. $2,400 a month for 96 months. That's $230,400. Plus another $68,000 for what you called emergencies. Property taxes, which I later learned were only $6,400 a year. Credit card debt. Isla's college expenses. Claire's medical bills that insurance apparently didn't cover. Except I called the hospital and they have no record of you owing anything." Claire's face went white. Isla stared at her phone. "You've taken $298,400 from me in 8 years, I said. My voice was steady. I was done shaking. "For a house I already owned, for expenses that were either fabricated or inflated, while telling me I was selfish for not giving more." "You have no proof I lied about anything," my father said. "Actually, I do." I pulled out another folder. "These are bank statements showing the property taxes you claimed were $28,000 last year. The real bill was $6,400. This is the credit card statement you said was $15,000 in medical debt. The actual balance was $2,100, and most of it was charges from furniture stores and restaurants. This is the roofer's estimate you said was $18,000. I called them. You never hired them. The roof was never replaced." Mr. Marsh was writing everything down now. "And this," I said, sliding one more paper across the table, is a notice of eviction. You have 60 days to vacate 412 Burwood Lane. My father's face went purple. You can't evict me. I'm your father. You're a tenant living in my house without a lease. I can absolutely evict you. I'll fight this. I'll take you to court. Please do. I'd love to explain to a judge how you've been defrauding me for 8 years. Claire started crying. Not real crying, the performative kind, with delicate sniffles and dabbing at dry eyes. Ivy, please, where will we go? Isla's getting married in 6 months. We need time to plan. You should have thought about that before you spent my money on her engagement party. Isla slammed her hand on the table. You're such a bitch. You've always been jealous of me. I'm not jealous. I'm done being your ATM. My father stood up. His voice dropped to that cold, controlled tone he used when he wanted to sound authoritative. If you do this, Ivy, you'll have no family, no one. You'll be completely alone. I stood up too. I've been alone for 14 years. The only difference now is I'm not paying for the privilege. I walked out of that conference room at 2:47 p.m. Mr. Marsh followed me into the hallway. Ms. Phillips, I have to ask, are you sure about this? Family estrangement is extremely difficult. They estranged themselves, I said. I'm just making it official. He nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I've been doing this for 23 years. I've never seen documentation like yours. Your grandmother really loved you. I know. I drove to the cemetery that evening. My grandmother was buried under an oak tree in the northwest corner, her headstone simple gray granite. I sat on the grass next to her grave and told her everything. About the letters, the money, the eviction notice, the look on my father's face when he realized he'd lost. You were right, I said out loud. About all of it. The wind rustled through the oak leaves. It almost sounded like her voice. I know, little Bloom. 60 days later, my father, Claire, and Isla moved out of 412 Burwood Lane. They didn't say goodbye. They left the house filthy, trash in the corners, holes in the walls, the carpet stained beyond repair. It cost me $8,200 to get it cleaned and repaired. It was still cheaper than 1 month of supporting them. I moved in 3 weeks after that. The house was exactly as I remembered. The porch swing, the lavender garden, the kitchen where my grandmother used to make blueberry pancakes on Sunday mornings. I repainted every room, tore up the carpet, refinished the hardwood floors underneath. In the master bedroom closet, I found one of my grandmother's scarves still hanging on a hook. It smelled like lavender. I kept it. 6 months later, I'm sitting on the porch swing with my coffee, watching the sun come up over Burwood Lane. The lavender is blooming. I've started renting out the 2 spare bedrooms to traveling nurses from the hospital, $900 each, which covers the property taxes and insurance with enough left over to save. My father tried to contact me twice, once through a lawyer, demanding his fair share of the house value. The lawyer dropped the case after I showed him the documentation, once through Claire's sister, who called to tell me how cruel I was being. I hung up. Isla sent me a wedding invitation. I didn't respond. I don't hate them. Hate takes energy I don't have anymore. Mostly, I just feel free. Dr. Hayes stopped by last week with a housewarming gift, a plant for the garden. Your grandmother would be proud, she said. I think she would be too. If you've ever been the person who paid and paid and paid while being told you were selfish for not giving more, type, I stopped paying, in the comments. Or if you're still trying to find the courage to walk away, type, I'm still learning. Both are valid. Both take strength. If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here. And remember, family isn't who makes you small. Family is who helps you grow.